What?
Oh, yeah. Run!
Hello, welcome to the SF Headbangers Virtual Happy Hour. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Cheers. Clank.
Also, we have a surprise guest. We have Rodney McG. We haven't seen you
Caught up in a while
since you were in LA, I think, and then you were busy because you were moving house. So tell us how it's been.
Really, really good. It's mostly actually because usually Fridays are a really heavy teaching day for me. But it makes it ironically a little easier being out in this time zone because now I'm starting to wrap up.
Oh,
A little later, it's instead of 5 now, it's like 8 something for me. So I can probably pop in more often. But yep, moved out of LA, in Michigan, and it's great. I feel like I did like the Snake Plissken escape from New York and got out of here just in time. And yeah, it's just good. I don't know what else to say. It's like I got a massive house for $600 a month less than I paid for a 2-bedroom apartment that I had to go outside to take a dump in. And I don't have people screaming outside my window or, yeah, it's just great. And I saw snow for the first time in 22 years, so that was.
I was going to ask you how
That looked pretty cool. You're like,
yeah.
Alfie or?
Oh, it was amazing.
Ralphie.
Yeah, exactly. It couldn't have been like more idyllic. Me and my girl were just sitting here and we kept going, no, it's not going to keep getting more perfect than this. It starts snowing late Christmas Eve.
Oh.
We wake up on Christmas, it's still kind of snowing, everything's white.
Beautiful.
We thought we were out of our goddamn minds. We're running around like a bunch of like Dickens orphans. The snow, I got our headgear on and shit. Everybody else is like, "Oh man, it's snowing." I'm like, "Oh man, it's snowing." And we're here in the like Victorian library with a 10-foot Christmas tree and the fire turned on and everything, and I'm just going, "I won."
That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is so. I mean, when did you move out there? Was it in the? I can't remember. Was it the spring?
It was. That's the one part. Actually getting into the house was probably one of the most horrific experiences I've ever had in my life.
Oh.
It really was like horrible. Like I've been shot at before. I've literally been shot at, and it was less traumatizing than what we had to do. That is no exaggeration. Like I don't wake up having panic attacks after being pointed at, having a gun pointed at me. It was like 5 times we were told we lost the house, and we had already left our jobs and moved, and we're in a hotel.
Oh wow! Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we're like just sitting here going like, what just happened? Unreal. But yeah, we just plowed through, and the owners were amazing about it, and just kind of realized we were getting the shit end of the stick with the lenders and the title work and everything. And now they're like our closest friends in the area, so that's worked out really good. And yeah, now I have literally a studio that's as big as my old apartment, so that doesn't suck. And it's a big boost of creativity and being able to work. And the new year, I'm finally going to be able to deliver on a lot of plans I've been trying to put together for a while because I have the space and the ability to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's been cool.
That's wonderful news. So the owners, you said the owners sold it to you fully furnished. Is that correct? You didn't even, I mean, I'm sure you brought some stuff, but it might not go with this decor, so you might have.
Yeah, no, we had our stuff in pods, and we had to put it on pause, like literally have it hold in Detroit because we had nowhere to go. And we were just waiting on it, and then we got into this house, and the stuff shows up, and I'm like, Christ, I'm going to throw half this shit away. Like, why did I even bring it?
Right.
Yeah, it's for the people who haven't seen it or anything, it's Victorian that was built in 1850, and the owners bought it when it was actually set to be demolished in 2000.
Oh, and they saved it.
Yeah, and put $100,000 into restoring it. So they salvaged all the original woodwork, recreated the plaster ceilings and all the ornamentation in it, put it back to exactly what it was, but because they rebuilt it like from studs, it's got all new HVAC, all new plumbing, wiring, so it's like all the advantages of a new house, but inside the shell of this amazing house.
Of my dream home, at least.
Yeah,
that's freaking awesome, dude.
Stunning.
It's ironic. I used to make the joke that one day I was going to have a house that was 50% Disney's Haunted Mansion, 50% Hogwarts, and it's exactly it. The basement here is a complete level. Like it's got its own bathroom, shower, kitchen, family room, separate dining room, bedroom. It's a whole thing, and it's all stone and brick. It looks like Hogwarts down there.
Wow.
It's completely finished. And I was like, how the hell did I manifest this shit? It just kind of happened. But we're slowly going through and just kind of Adam's Family, the whole thing, gothing it up a little bit and everything. And, but yeah, the furniture, half of the stuff is antiques original to the house. We've got, French Gothic ornamentation and a dining room table that's 150 years old, and just it was kind of funny. Like I said, I come in and I'm like, when do they take all this other stuff out? There's no place that doesn't have stuff. You open any drawer in here and it's stuffed full of shit. Like we keep finding things. And they were like, no, we just have no space for this. You have to take it. Like they insisted on it. They're like, no, you are taking all of this. Found a whole platter of Waterford crystal in one of the cabinets. Like, you got to be kidding me. And they're like, no, you have it.
Wow.
Okay.
But those owners are still in the area, you said?
Yeah, they live 3 blocks from here. I walk down there and go have lunch with them sometimes, or they stop by. Yeah, half the time I wind up just having to call the guy. I'm like, when you did the heater thing, where the hell are the ducts and the filters? Oh, they're already in the basement. Just look in this closet and you'll find them.
That is so cool.
The first week we were in, I wake up and I'm like, what the hell's that noise? I look outside. The guy's outside riding around mowing our lawn. He was like, yeah, I figured you had enough to do.
Oh, how nice.
So, no complaints from that. And
wonderful.
It really was kind of like this weird escaping a curse thing. Like all of a sudden I got a ton more work. My students picked back up. I guess it's kind of one of those things of, when a ball starts rolling, and it's worked out. I'm going to be doing demo reviews and lessons for Guitar Interactive magazine now. They contacted me and were like, hey, we love the new studio and what you're doing and everything. Basically I just do the stuff for my channel and then send them a copy of it, and they'll be publishing it there too.
Oh, okay. Congratulations. That's awesome. So, yeah, it definitely suits you. I mean, remember right before, the move, you're like, oh my gosh, I have to do all this stuff. I mean, I don't really know you that well, but I've met you a couple of times just over WebEx, but you look actually like a different man. Just more relaxed or something. And like, I think
skin.
He's actually living now.
Skincare regimen or something. I don't know, but you look great. You look like you're really happy. So congratulations again.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's like I said, I guess it's one of those things. I'm sure life will even out at some point, but it was a massive effort making all of this kind of happen and go through and be able to pick up and start, working again and moving after, and it's all working out so far.
Wonderful.
Really
So the EMG TV, tell us a little bit about it, and then I'm going to play that Primus Claypole bass thing, that clip, or we could play it and then you could talk about it. Up to you.
I'll just do it now and then we can run it. I've had a good relationship with EMG for a while. That worked a lot with them, and especially Tech 21, and now a company called AMT. But it's been kind of flattering in that I've used their pickups for a long time and always had a good relationship, but they've started putting together ad campaigns because they're doing a lot of signature series stuff. Like They had stuff for like Dave Ellefson from Megadeth and Robert Trujillo from Metallica. Now they're doing the Les Claypool set. And the main rep there, Tommy, just started reaching out to me and going, we're going to have bass players that we work with that we think are, a good representation, or people we think can carry advertising these things the way they are. So can I just start sending you out, sets of these things and doing some video work with us, and we're going to put you in these ad campaigns to promote these things before they hit market. And yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard not to be flattered by that, like, guys that have been your heroes coming up and stuff, and they go, hey, we want you to show off their stuff. It's like, how many people are using EMG that they could ask to do it?
Right.
And, same thing with Tech 21. I'm going to be doing something, I can't really talk about it yet. It's another signature thing, but they've had me do like Steve Harris and Geddy Lee and Doug Pinnick, and I'm going, you're asking me to do these guys who I still look at like giants. So that was pretty much it. And he just sent me out the pickups and was like, do whatever you think is cool, throw in some Primus, do some other stuff. I figured everybody would do Primus, obviously, because it's Claypool's thing, but I was like, how can I give it a little bit more of a metal twist and something more interesting? So I found a clip that they used to do Master of Puppets live, and he did an all slap version of the beginning part of it, and I was like, okay, that'll be a good thing. I can toss that piece in there. And then because I'm a crackhead, I went, I'm going to do this 20 BPM faster. So so that was kind of that. And we had originally done the Robert Trujillo pickups, and that was kind of the same thing. So I did some Infectious Grooves kind of riffs from it and that kind of thing. But that's where the EMG came from, and
Okay.
that's that.
All right. Yeah, let's check it out. No, you're definitely doing it beyond justice, because when people watch it, when I watched it, I'm like, you've got to be kidding. I was like in the car, I'm like, it came out, I'm like, what the heck was that? And like, so I was in the car, stayed in the car, like played it again, and that's when I shared it, like got to my computer and shared it.
I promised I wasn't going to cry.
So let me bring it up.
It's kind of good. It's kind of good.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, I'm being sarcastic, right? Well, look at the emoji. Like, he's kind of good. He's all right.
So
That crazy?
That's badass.
Oh my gosh. So great.
It was also kind of fun too, because I've had a big thing on my channel about kind of put up or shut up, and just putting yourself out there and doing stuff, or putting yourself under pressure to deliver. And this is kind of a good opportunity because I don't play slap. So they asked me to do it, and I sat there and went, okay, I've got to get this up to speed quick. So I spent about 10 days just doing this really fast, bro, like getting that up and, you know, going, okay, what are the things I'm always lecturing about with my students and on my channel about? Take this down, look for the inconsistencies, find this thing, drill yourself, find every little inconsistency, and, you know, make it a practice. And if you focus and do things methodically, you know, it just becomes inevitable. So I was able to kind of pull it off and then be able to put it up and go, here's what I'm always bitching about, you know, a lack of focus, or, you know, guys who go like, well, I can't figure this out or something. It was like, I had an intake and had to be able to figure this out. So, you know.
That's funny. So you were not kidding when you said, I normally don't slap, but when I do, so, I mean.
Yeah. You will find no other example of me slapping. It's just not something I do. For that type of technique, I do something a little different where I have more tap. Like I'll slap my finger on the fingerboard, kind of like John Entwistle from The Who or something. I don't really do the thumb and pluck type of thing.
Oh, wow.
So the thumb wasn't too hard to get in. It was the getting the pops really quick. That was the thing. So I just sat there for about, 3 hours a day and would run through a regimen of it. About 10, and I was like, okay, I can pull this off.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing. I mean, wow, holy crap. Even more impressive knowing it's like, oh, let me just work on it. I mean, like what you tell your students, like, try this until you're, to that point where you feel comfortable or whatever. But holy crap, really good. I'm trying to look on the EMG. So how many official videos? I know you have a bunch on your channel, but on the EMG TV, there's another one called EMG Remote with Rodney McG from 2 months ago.
Yeah, that was probably the Robert Trujillo pickup, and that was actually the first one they asked me to do that had some slap in it. And I said, I think I kind of buried myself with it. They were like, hey, can you do this? I just say yes to everything. Yeah, I'll do it.
That's
and
awesome.
Do some slapping in it. And they were like, oh, that was great. Here, do more. I'm like, what are you doing?
Okay, let me bring that. I did not watch that one yet. So let me.
That one was a good bit easier to get.
That's awesome.
Oh my God.
And you called out the infectious grooves earlier, and I did radio, and the jump from suicidal tendencies into the infectious grooves area. I mean, that was a massive freaking right turn, for that band. And my thing that I took away was the blazing bass tracks on them. I mean, they just lit it up, something fierce there. So pretty cool.
Yeah, it was my first exposure to Robert. It was just, I mean, a complete, thing of fresh air. Plus, I mean, it was post Chili Peppers and all that kind of thing. So you kind of started to hear some of the slap in coming into rock and that type of thing. And I think ironically that was kind of what threw me off slap playing originally. Was you first had Flea and then you had Robert, and all of a sudden it was like every guy was suddenly like bonk, 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 you know, this thing, and I just went, you guys can have that one. I'm good. You go to like NAM or something like that, and you go into the bass hall and it just sounds like 500 popcorn machines going off at the same time. It's like,
Wow.
So I just kind of put that one aside. Now, of course, you know, it's not as big, and I'm doing this. I'm like, I should probably do something with this. I put enough damn time into it now. Try and come up with something interesting or weird to do with it, and make
Yeah.
make everybody regret hearing it. So
No, that was fantastic. I think I was telling the guys my daughter was starting to noodle with a couple of guitars and stuff, and then she's practicing, but she's getting there. But then she's like, I think I want to play bass. I'm like, why? I'm like, why? Because like there's 2 strings less. Yes. And then she's like thinking it's gonna be so easy. And then I'm like, oh, you want to play bass? Let me show you my friend Rodney. So then I showed her that. Then she got totally discouraged again. She's like, what? You can do that on bass? I'm like, oh my God. Like mind blown. She was just like, oh, maybe I won't do anything now. It's just so incredible. I mean, it's,
I appreciate it. That's always been the bass thing, is guitar players will come out and they're like, oh, bass is so much easier. I'm like, my one note, fretting one note is like 10 of yours. Like I love actually getting on guitar, because it's like all of a sudden you have these tiny little strings to play and everything. And it's like, if there was ever anything, and God knows it won't be a woman, that made me feel like a man, it will be picking up a guitar after playing bass for a while. It's like, I own this thing.
I love it. I love it. And I think I was watching maybe 2 weeks ago that lesson for like bass players. You're like, oh, you might be uncomfortable, doing the chords thing, but I mean, you're such a really great teacher, just sitting in on a few of your lessons, and you just kind of always explain like why you want to do this is because you just don't say, oh, do this. It's like there's always some reasoning behind it, so it kind of makes people understand why they're doing what they're doing. So yeah, really good. Really good.
From the outside, that actually means a lot. I appreciate hearing it. I've made a conscious effort in that direction, so hearing somebody that picks up on it without knowing it, I spent a lot of time trying to fix all the stuff that I wish somebody would have done for me coming up, to eliminate places where I feel like I lost a year or something like that, where I was like, why, I had a complete misconception about this. And I find that's a lot with teachers. Or honestly, I don't think some people should be teaching. That they have this thing of just, I'm good at it, so I'm just going to show you what I do, and that's it. And and they don't really give you. Motivation is all about having a North Star or some place to be able to move to and go like, okay, like every dream all of us have when we were little, or even now, like me with this house or something. It's like, I can, I have this thing, and, I'll know it when I reach it. If you have something just nebulous, like just do this.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was very simple, but people usually don't kind of explain it to that level of detail. It was just right, saying, okay, here's a chord. It's like 3 different notes played at the same time, but you don't have to do it all at once. Maybe each individually that arpeggios, and then find them all the places that you could do it, and then feel comfortable. It's like, oh, up here, higher in the neck, lower. Okay, don't stay in this territory where everyone stays. So, I mean, when you said that, people are probably like, oh, that's me, because that's probably a good percentage of people, and that's their comfort level, and not working up higher on the neck. So yeah, I'm like, God, he's such a good teacher. So I'm going to be tuning in more, because I just like your technique and just how you teach, and your speed, your rate is really good too. So kudos to you.
Thanks. Yeah, it's like I said, trying to put out something that's going to have a bit more value, and how can I say, basically when I put the channel together, I just went through and watched tons of videos and went, what do I like and not like? What do I feel like is missing? And that was, a lot of it was it. It was just kind of like, be impressed by me and then copy it. And I think some of the ego comes from that too, is they won't fully explain something, or they'll over explain it in massive words to make themselves seem like they're fucking magicians or something. It's like a lot of college professors I've known, they're like, well, and then 3 hours later, I'm like, did you just mean this? Like, yeah, like,
Dude, I'm a software engineer and I hear that shit all the time. They go on this whole diatribe of their code and it's like, bro, just break it down. It does this, this, and that. And I don't need the whole story. Just stop professing to me. It's like, dude, kudos.
Yeah, I mean, that's a sign of a good, I mean, the most technical people that I knew were the people who, like Rodney's, like expert level, but they could break it down to a person that doesn't know it and then make sense of it. They could go, oh, I get it, instead of like saying a bunch of jargon stuff that people don't know, like Rodney talking about chords, playing bass, and just very simple concepts, but no one ever says these things. It's like you play them together, or each note at one time, like just practice, be comfortable. It's like, you don't need to stay up here. It's like, there's this whole, you have all this to, at your, at your
disposal.
Fingertips. Yeah, your fingertips, literally. And you're just staying safe because that's all you see, but there's so much more. So yeah, I think a lot of people be super inspired just watching a couple of your videos. So, and congratulations, really, really amazing. Did you study music in school, or are you?
Yes and no. That's a good thing. It's like, I've always kind of had a weird thing of like, I always have to take things apart. I think I have kind of a strange brain in that I'm not like a lot of other musicians or artists I hang out with. I also have this kind of scientist part of my brain that needs
engineering, dude.
Yeah. My parents were horrified when I finally conned my mother into getting me a bass one year for my birthday. She came in a half hour later and I had disassembled it and had the part over the bed. And it was like, because I had to know how it worked. And she was like, how are you going to put it back together? And I went, with a screwdriver. Like,
you would have made the best and worst meth addict.
And you're
I'm gonna take apart your washing machine. I'm gonna put it back together.
But so I had studied music on my own a lot, and then before I went to Musicians Institute in Hollywood, and I went there for a number of reasons, not just education. But when I showed up there, a couple of months into my first classes, I wound up testing out of most of them because they were like, you already kind of know this, so there's no point in you hanging around, go do other stuff or sit in on the counseling classes or live play workshops. So I was kind of, I guess, like when they give some people like the master's assignment or something, or like, just do something and talk to us at the end of the semester.
How was MI? Because I mean, I wanted to go, but being a poor kid with not great enough talent for any scholarship, but to hear that you went there, dude, how was it?
Very different than it is now. When I went, it was still a 1-year program. They've turned it now into like a 4-year thing and spread it out, I'm sure mostly just to get more money. But it was more like base boot camp. When you went there, it was kind of like, you're going to come in the first day and get absolutely shit hammered. And they would tell you all year, you're not going to master this stuff. Don't try, just try and keep up. Because we're going to hit you hard with a lot of stuff. You're going to digest this for another 10 years.
So fake it until you make it, and you just get the experience.
But it was like, during tests, you had to show you understood it, not necessarily had mastered it. It's like when you're going to go through one day and have, okay, I've got to learn some sight reading, I've got ear training, I've got to learn to perform 2 different genres of jazz, I got to do a live rock performance, I have to do a solo piece, I have to, like, there's just not enough hours in one day to absorb all that. So it was good, but I feel like what the school was targeted as wasn't as much what I was personally searching for. Gotcha. So I spent a lot of time, I spent a good amount of time, and this isn't a slight against the school, just not necessarily a match, kind of feeling like I was lost in the desert a little bit and spent a lot of time more on my own, or just, I kind of clung on to a couple of teachers and just would follow them around like the most annoying pain in the ass ever, and just hitting them with these questions like, how come you do this? I don't see a class on this. Why don't you do that? And well, actually, to pay a little bit of tribute, one of the teachers passed just yesterday, Tim Bogert.
Oh,
He was the original bass player for Vanilla Fudge and Cactus, and basically like the American Led Zeppelin at the time. And he used to teach the bass and vocal performance things. And he and I got to be good friends. And so it was guys like that I would follow around and go like, okay, but is this bullshit that doesn't work on stage? You know, like you've been in it, you've done the shit, you've toured. Is all this stuff like, can you do that when a beer bottle's coming at your head? You know, that was the stuff I want. And a lot of guys who went there, they were just starting their careers. I had already been touring. I'd been on a label, like I'd kind of done that arc and went into it. But it was cool in some ways. Like I said, tough in others. But there were a couple pieces I got to take out that motivation wise and self-esteem wise did me a lot of good. So, you know, like Tim, I'll always remember, has given me one of the best compliments I ever got in my life. And, you know, so it's tough to see a guy like that go. He, if you ever watch Billy Sheehan, he does this thing where he rakes across the fingerboard and he gets these incredible, like just flurries of notes. And I had watched him and figured out how to do it with 3 fingers instead of 2 to triple up on the notes. And then Tim Bogert was actually the guy who invented it. And this goes pretty deep, but you remember the Rod Stewart song, Do You Think I'm Sexy? That bass line, that's the first time anybody heard raking. He invented it for that song. So I got to sit with this guy who I first heard his work when I was 6 years old. Show me how this works. Like I've done my own bastardized version of it. And we used to sit and talk about it. And I showed him how I did it. And it was really interesting sitting there. And I went, well, I use 3. And I go like this. And he just kind of looks at my hand and goes, I never thought of that. And then it's like I said, I would follow him around. I've skipped a class and we're just sitting in a counseling room together. And then the next session comes in, so all these people come in for his counsel. And a bunch of people sit down, and he was known for this technique. And and he goes, all right, what's everybody want to work on? And the kid's like, I want to do the raking. And there's another guy's like, yeah, I want to do raking too. He goes, great. Pulls a pack of cigarettes out and he goes, here's the deal with raking. I invented it. Billy Sheehan made it famous. This guy perfected it. Learn it from him. I'm going to have a smoke. He walked out.
oh my God. I love it.
Yeah, it was tough getting enough Vaseline to get on the side of my head to fit it back out the door.
Oh, I'm sure.
That's
amazing.
Yeah, it being put in the league of like all of a sudden, like, you know, I'm very minimally in the stratosphere with like Tim Bogert and Sheehan, and I was like,
That's incredible.
I can quit now. I'm good.
That's a great story. That's a great story.
Yeah,
no. I mean, that's kind of like you were forcing yourself kind of on him, but I'm sure like office hours, I told my daughter, I said, when, you know, she's only in 6th grade, but I told her like, learn from my mistakes. I said, when they have office hours, I would never go. But now, you know, at this age, I'm like, I should have gone to those, you know, it's like, that's where you get like this extra stuff. And sometimes, you know, they're more willing to help you if it's like, okay, I'm here. Because I have a lot of teacher friends. They said, oh yeah, I sat in my office hour waiting for people to show up, like on the Zoom. No one shows up.
Exactly.
You know, no one shows up. And it's like, it means so much for that one kid to show up and asking. It just makes their day, you know. So I told her, please, you know, especially if you need help, but just check in with them, especially during this, you know, Corona, Zoom, distance learning. It means so much. I mean, it'll mean a lot to her too, my daughter.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's like those old stories of who is the student that winds up getting somewhere. It's always like the Buddhist monk that they don't let in, and he just sits in front of the temple until they finally go, okay, he's actually serious, and then that's when you get to level up, you know.
Yeah.
I have to have that kind of that moment with Jeff Berlin, if you're familiar with him. He's phenomenal, legendary bassist, and he taught there when I was there too. And he made some kind of remark standing outside about being a pain in the ass, and I said, so you're giving me a permission to be a pain in your ass now? And he goes, you are a pain in my ass. And he goes, and that's the only reason you're ever going to be worth a shit.
Wow.
I was like, all right, he regretted that one. Much.
I
I
like it.
didn't eat a full meal the entire time I was at that school. He'd be like, but
No, I love it. I love these types of stories. It's like, you had that interest. It wasn't you were just trying to, I don't know, but you're just trying to learn. And if they were open to teaching you, and usually they are, it sounded like you were just like a complete sponge, and you're still learning, it seems like. So
constantly, I'm never going to be, I think if you ever hit a mark where you go, yeah, I'm good, I'm there, you fail. Like there's always something that, you have guys coming out that do stuff with bass now that I'm like, I'm having that Tim Bogert moment. Like, I never would have thought of that. Like, now I have to learn that. I thought I was getting close. Now I got to go do that. And and it's like, where's the fun in that? Where's the fun in just stopping somewhere and just sitting on what you do? It's like, well, now what?
Yeah.
But that's also a life lesson too. There's a lot of people that don't, right? They go to college, they finish college, and they're like, I don't need to learn anymore. And then you never grow. You never expand.
Yeah, I have to wonder what they were they really learning? It's like, did you just accomplish a goal to out of obligation, or did you absorb something? And I've tried to get that across to students a number of times too. I'm like, the second you learn something from me, abandon it and do something else. It's like, don't stop where I did. This took me this long. It took you this long because you got it from me. Now you have to go where I did. Keep going.
And then that cycle will continue, right?
Yeah. I said,
hopefully.
the compliment you could do to me is make me look like an ass. Okay.
Oh, that's great.
Right.
Shame me all the hell. And, that's kind of my thing of a lot of stuff, like with the EMG Pickups demo, kind of going all the way back around, is me always going, even though I don't play slap that much, even though I don't enjoy it even that much or find a place for it in my music, this was a challenge for me to do. And I went, I have somebody who's flattered me by asking me to do this. Can I rise to this? And you're goddamn right. I walked around the house going, I ripped this song out and I managed to, pull off a technique in 10 days and knock it down. Okay. Then I'm ready for something that I'm truly interested in now that, kind of confidence is up again, and you keep going through that cycle. So and that's kind of the other part about teaching that I feel like a lot of people don't do is they'll tell you or lecture you, but they don't lead by example. And that's been a big thing for this year is I'm always about my students, put up or shut up. I tell them, if you've done something and you say that you've watched my videos, you do this, I'm like, stop telling me you watch them. Show me. Put your video up. I'll promote you. But you got to get over the nervousness. You have to put yourself out there. Being one of these bedroom warriors isn't going to do it. And, so I've been thinking about, I haven't put out an album in a while, and I probably wasn't going to, and I'm doing a whole songwriting course, the most complete one that's ever been done on video. And that's my big task for the year. And I'm going, I might have to put up or shut up and put out a new album and go, I'm going to put my songwriting back out there. I got to, balls up and do it.
Yeah. Rise to the occasion. Yeah. Because you conquered this one. So it's like, what's next on your list? We're super excited. So when you say you're teaching, are you just doing like Zoom one-on-one lessons with your students, or are you teaching you're not teaching in person, are you? Or
I have some students that come by, but like regular ones that I know, and everybody's fairly safe about it and everything. But yeah, most of it's over Zoom, and I do either individual lessons or I have patron channels where I do live streams, and I'll get people on and basically we'll just go for like 2 hours, and I'll do like a Ask Me Anything.
Oh.
And guys will go, and I'll go, okay, we're going to whittle down the subject today so I can actually get some information out. So we're going to talk tapping. Hit me. And guys will be like, how did you do this in this piece? How does Billy Sheehan do this? Is it hard to get contrapuntal tapping going where it's more like a piano? How do you approach that? can you do it and sing at the same time? So I can run through a bunch of topics and just respond to, the people who sponsor my channel and give them tips on what they're working on.
Very cool.
So
So who are some of your like all-time bass heroes?
Wow. There's a lot of them. I would say everybody's going to come up if you're kind of doing this style and the same guys, obviously like Geddy Lee and Steve Harris and stuff like that. The guy I'll always go back to as being like the one that I just sat there in awe of would be Bob Daisley. Very early on, I zeroed in on him. He was the bassist on all the early Ozzy stuff. And I mean, they're just so overlooked, and the most epic rock and metal bass lines. I mean, when you go back and listen to it, he's playing with Randy Rhoads and Jake E. Lee and the most epic original guitarists. That guy is carrying the entire song so they can do what they do. I mean, you listen to songs like I Don't Know or the opening to Crazy Train and all. He's moving constantly. And that's always blown me away that, to me, he's the perfect rock bassist. He provides groove and foundation, but at the same time, incredibly interesting melodic ideas. He does absolutely up to the limit what he should do without stepping on other people, but unbelievably complex and interesting ideas. And my favorite part about it, and this is when you're doing your job, at least in my opinion, is that people don't realize it. That you're doing so much that it's just becomes part of this harmonic piece. And yeah, I mean, I've sat down even with some younger students and played them the stuff and gone just to the bass. And by the end of the song, they're like, holy shit, this guy's amazing. Like, yeah, you miss out on it because he wasn't personally flashy. But and his bass lines are way more challenging than people realize. I've had people like, well, he doesn't shred as much or do that. I'm like, try doing these octaves during this section. And they go like, oh, wow, my wrist is really hurting.
Stretchy, yeah.
So foundationally, it would be him. But there's a number of players. I mean, guys like Pino Palladino, when I pick up fretless, I mean, he did amazing stuff outside of metal with everybody from Pete Townsend to Don Henley. I mean, he's all over incredible stuff. Let me think. Anymore, I don't feel like I listen to just bassists anymore. It's become very much I look at people more just as musicians and try to know whose voice do I want to emulate or take something from.
Yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense. That was like we were saying the Bob Daisley thing. It's not. I mean, it's just so ingrained, like the foundation, the fabric. You don't even. You're like, oh yeah, it's that sound, but who's doing that? It's like, oh yeah. I mean, you don't really think about it because unless they're celebrated, like he's, like you said, the Geddy Lee or Les Claypool, but you don't think about that. But it's so integral, to those songs and that whole sound. It's like, oh yeah, when you point it out that way. So I think I have a bunch of those on vinyl, so I'm going to have to break those out tonight.
I'll give you one to check out. And I actually did a cover of it. I'm trying to figure out how to release at some point because I keep getting slammed with copyright shit. But on Diary of a Madman, there's a song called S.A.T.O. And it is I've always loved power trios. I like hearing just one guitar, one bass, drums, and just like hearing a contribution from everybody and them just slamming at it. And Ozzy in this song is utterly irrelevant. Like he could drop out of the music and you wouldn't miss him. It is a power trio firing on all cylinders, and it's live takes. These guys are going at this song, and Randy is he's being supported so much that he's just going off and just adding little pieces and effects and all this crazy shit. And Bob's going off and the drummer Lee is going off, and it's amazing, but it's kind of this thing of like a roller coaster car that's trying to make you afraid that everything's going to go off the track at any minute, but it just makes it to the finish line. And that was probably the song that made me pick up bass.
Wow.
I listened to it. I had a mono cassette recorder with a cassette deck in it. I would put under my pillow and put my head on at night so my father wouldn't know I was listening to music. I was supposed to be in bed. And before I could play anything, I could hear this bass line and it just blew me away. And it just was like, if I pick it up, I want to do that. I want to do whatever that is. And again, not to go on too many stories, but I got to talk to him one day. And that was just, again, I feel like I've had enough moments musically at a certain point where it's like, I'm good. Like if I got hit by a bus or something tomorrow and things happen, it's like I hit a couple of marks where I'm like, okay. Yeah. I'm also going to be, that's another thing for this year, finally delivering on. I'm doing a whole analysis of his style, and I'm going to break down his songs and exactly what he's doing in parts and why they're so cool and how to integrate them into your playing. And I originally did it. Here's some inside info. I used to do instructional videos way back when it was DVD for a company in SoCal, and I was going to do Bob Daisley, and we got shut down by the Osbournes.
Oh.
They wouldn't even let me do an analysis of a guy's style that they tried to write off the albums. These people are insane. But I sent a email to his management one time and said, hey, I'm going to be doing this thing. I just wanted to clear it with Bob, let him know what's going on. If he has any objection or anything, I have a lot of respect for him and that kind of thing. I get an email back an hour later. It said, send us your number. Bob's going to call you. Like, sweetest human being ever. That guy called me from Australia and talked to me for 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Wow.
And that to me was like voice of God kind of thing, and him filling me in on all these secrets I didn't know about Ozzy and what had really gone on, and
wow,
all this amazing shit. Yeah, it's like I'm sure Sharon's not happy I'm alive.
That's why you had to move to Michigan.
Exactly. I was actually running from them. Yeah, he was like, if you need tour pictures, if you want any information, he said, I've been approached to do videos like this for a long time, and I just don't have an interest in it. I don't feel like I'll deliver it well. And he goes, you get it. He goes, I can tell you get it. And you know why I was doing what I was doing. And he said, you have my full blessing on it.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, that was one like then you could have hit me with a bus. I'd be like, I never have to do it. So I feel kind of a debt in that way, and that, we got shut down and I couldn't deliver on it. But having a video platform, which I'm probably going to have to do it on some alt tech site or something, because YouTube loves to shut that shit down.
Yeah, the dark. It has to go dark.
But yeah, I'll get it out one way or another.
Okay.
That'll be one of my other projects. But yeah, he's just so overlooked and phenomenal. And yeah, just the stories he told me from the inside of that, I'm just like, I giggle about to this day. And, having Randy Rhoads come in, it was actually his band. Ozzy joined his band. It wasn't the other way around.
Oh.
It was originally a band and Ozzy joined it. It was Ozzy Osbourne. And then they agreed to call it The Blizzard of Oz. The album comes out, all of a sudden it's Ozzy Osbourne, The Blizzard of Oz. And he's like, that's not the name of the band.
Wow.
Doing. And they didn't even tell him they were going to do that, just put the print on the album. And he's like, they're auditioning guitarists before Randy, and some guy comes in and goes, hey, I think your roadie's crashed out in the corner, and he pissed himself. And he was like, no, that's the singer.
Wow.
So
that's incredible.
Yeah,
that's an incredible story, Rodney. Oh my God.
So first, I'm going to backtrack. It's funny, we were on a call we were on the other day. We were talking, it was about Van Halen and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And he called out, S.A.T.O is I wouldn't call it a hidden track, but it's not a track that a lot of people listen to by any means, because it's in between. It's in between two songs, which that was one that I really loved. And for Van Halen, One Foot Out the Door is, in my view, fairly similar.
Yes.
It's something totally off the beaten path in a sense for those bands. Though I think S.A.T.O is a little more towards what Ozzy is, but One Foot Out the Door is totally different than most Van Halen. But I also look at other tracks like I'm a huge Black Sabbath fan, and Super Not, very bass heavy centric song, and there's a whole bunch of those out there. Some of them are popular, some are not so popular, because they were other songs on the album that attracted people to them. But yeah, it's interesting you called those out. It just shows you're a child of the '80s, really.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the funny thing is, I find, and saying that, like, I feel like the Fair Warning album is in Van Halen's career that song. It's the one that didn't make it, but it's always kind of funny that you feel like you're the weird person that clues into those albums or those tracks. But it's like when you get with the real fans of something, you find you all zeroed in on that same thing. So it's not the hidden track. It was the one for us.
Yeah. And then you're amongst your people.
Yeah. Fair Warning, the first time I heard Dirty Movies, I was like, oh. Yeah, I remember like an 11-year-old me listening to that song, feeling like I needed to like sit back with a cigarette. It was
fucking
so
awesome.
pretty, and I've never heard drop C guitar, and it's just this grimy, and it's got a hook chorus in a way, and the weird like heroin addict schizophrenic guitar noises on the intro, and the bassist playing harmonics. They were stretching out into it simultaneously in a way like high art and just gritty ass blues rock metal.
Yeah.
There has to be something kind of shady going on when you're listening to that song. Subject matter, all of it. And I can remember keying into that early, and everybody was like, oh, what Van Halen album do you like? I'd be like, Fair Warning. Every time which one is that? And I'm like, then I've been listening to interviews lately. It's funny you bring that up, like Dweezil Zappa. And he, grew up around Eddie Van Halen because Frank Zappa and Eddie knew each other and lived close. And he talked about hearing that song for the first time and was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Nuno Betancourt was on his podcast and was like, Dirty Movies, dude. That song was just amazing. And so it's like you start seeing the hive mind of like people who get it. And
it's interesting because you know the history from back then of the bands that were Missing Persons, Friend of the Zappas and stuff like that. People nowadays, they don't know, heck they haven't even heard of half these bands, but some really awesome stuff from back then. So one, congratulations on your relocation and getting into your dream house. Are you planning on doing something organic in that area? I mean, obviously you're dropping roots there, but things within the community and stuff like that, or?
Yeah, I'd like to. There's so much lost history, I feel like, all over the country. And just in what I've discovered about this area, I just had no idea that, the stuff that's going on here. And I'd like to see it brought back in a way. I'm kind of enjoying watching this migration that's happening away from cities. I feel like it's a mentally healthy move for a lot of people. It's just a lot of the cities are, I think, contributing to a lot of bad shit. But being able to get into communities where you actually know people, and it's a little less kind of rats on a ship type of thing. But coming out and finding places like this, like the area is called Port Huron, and I'm a block away from Lake Huron. And the owners of the house have kind of been filling us in on the city and stuff. And it's like, I had no idea this place was second only to Ellis Island in early American immigration. I'd never heard of that. I had no idea. This is where Thomas Edison grew up. There's right across the street from me an Edison Museum. And he used to live like one block over. I could see the house he grew up in. There's just this amazing amount of things that came out of here you would never even know. You probably heard the outside of Madonna, the old adage of like true blue. Something's true blue. that comes from the water here. That the ice here used to be shipped all over the world. And it was so desirable that people in Europe and stuff would pay in way high premiums to get this water because it's so pure. And the way you would know it was real Great Lakes stuff is that it has a blue cast to it. So if they
Nice.
tried to sell it to you and you held it up to light and it wasn't blue, you knew you were getting conned. So they would advertise true blue ice.
so
You know
interesting.
it's the real thing. And like, things like that you just don't have a grasp of, or the history of Detroit here, even in the music.
Well, that's my that's my fantastic non-metal fact of the evening. Thank you. That was awesome. And sorry,
Yeah.
but please continue.
Yeah.
You were going on about Detroit's musical history. Please, please.
All of the Canadian bands that we're familiar with coming down, or even like Joan Baez or artists like that. I can see the bridge to Canada right outside my window, and they would come out here, cut through Port Huron, go down to Detroit, and that's where they started their careers. You had Susie Quattro, and you had just tons. Detroit was a big central place, especially in the later psychedelic era and things, and people just don't realize it. Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young used to be here all the time, and Neil Young coming from Canada, they would pop down and do gigs, and it was a big cross juncture because you could play in two countries in the same day. So the history of a lot of artists that I had no idea of are going to see places that are closed, but massive theaters that had this was the place if you were anybody that you played. Iggy Pop and stuff like that. And so I'm really kind of hoping as things open up and things, I can start looking into it and, bringing more of the culture of music back to a lot of these kids around here are really into it, but they don't realize you're right in the middle of it. You have your own Motown here. It's the Motor City music scene.
Right.
And, there's so much history around it that, there's a lot here that I feel like could be brought back, and it's been lost to, the people who still remember it are dying out.
Right. Sometimes it takes an outsider's point of view, like someone like yourself, to really kind of go in there and appreciate, like, do you know what's here? It's like, no, that kind of fresh pair of eyes and kind of to revive that. So yeah, I could totally see you doing something like that. And we'll have to make it out there one day. It's like,
That'd be awesome.
travel safe.
That's been a nice thing just in that. It's like, I can invite people to my house. I'd invite someone.
And be socially distant.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's so big.
Well, that's been the funny thing too. It's like I'm such a shut-in and like a mild misanthrope. Everybody's like, I can't stand the COVID thing and the shut-in. I'm like, is that still a thing? I feel like putting up a picture of myself 10 years ago and it's like social distancing champion 10 years running. I see my cat and that's principally it. But no, I mean, Christ, inviting people to LA, I'd be like, yeah, you should come out and stay in a hotel down the block. Or
Right.
I'll stay in your hotel, please, for the love of God.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to do another call and maybe you could join on your cell phone or something so you give us a tour of your mansion.
Yeah. And I love the fact that people say I live in a mansion. It's very fun, and yeah, it's going to be kind of interesting. I'm looking at creating a couple of different music rooms with different themes and things around the house, so I'll be able to video from different locations and different setups. So that's an advantage too, being really self-contained here.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and yeah, should you make it out this way?
I've heard great things. There's a friend, like one of Victoria's friends, their parents are from Michigan, and just talking about summers in Michigan, they'll go back, they live in the city, but they'll go back for the whole summer, and just have that lifestyle like I only hear about, kids running around out, like everyone's doing their own thing, and then like just meet up for dinner and just enjoy the water, and it just sounds amazing.
It's crazy. Kids play outside here. It's weird.
Yeah, that's what they said. It's like, huh? So it's
If-
wonderful. It sounds wonderful.
One thing I discovered here, which if you're at all interested in weird terrain or places to go, check this place out. There's a place in Michigan called Sleeping Bear Dunes.
Okay, I'm ready.
It literally looks like the Caribbean
Oh.
because water here is so clear
Mhm.
that it's like you can walk out on pebbles for about a half mile out into the water, and it's like bath water. And then
Wow.
they have these massive stone formations that look like the ones outside of like Bali and things where you can canoe through holes in them and things. So it's, people are like, they all think like I've moved up into some place where I have to like wake up the polar bears and get the sled going and shit just to the store. But it's like you go out in summer and it's like being in Southeast Asia, but without all the mosquitoes, death, and humidity. And you can, it's just like I said, insane gorgeous. And I had no idea. I had a picture of Michigan in my head too. And then they're like, no, you can windsurf up here. And, it's like being in the Mediterranean or something.
Yeah, it sounds wonderful.
Oh, good. Great.
What do you think of that Detroit style pizza?
uh,
Have you tried it yet?
I figure I could have the same thing, just shoot at myself while I eat. I haven't noticed a difference yet.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's like the crust is a little bit different. They do it in a pan. So my friends, the ones from Michigan, they bought this special pan and, so they made some and I had some. It was delicious. So I'm like, wait, so is the crust, that's the thing? And how it is in the pan? It's like, yeah, that's the thing. That's the difference.
I had to Google it, Marge, because I had never heard of a Detroit style. It's basically like a Sicilian pie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like
It's one
yeah,
that's
it's
like
good.
super thick. It's like a pie.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
literally
Those
it's
are
like a
the
pie.
deep dish Chicago, which are
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Lenardi's
Oh,
and
right.
Giordano's, you got to go there if you're in Chicago area. But yeah, but like I'm looking at this, I'm like, I'm like, okay. First I thought Little Caesars, but then second I was like, no, that's a Sicilian pie. I was like, so
No,
just a Michigan, Wisconsin style to it,
Yeah.
It looks hella good though.
Basically, anything that's guaranteed to create morbid obesity. That's
Oh yeah.
Yeah. This is definitely a cheat day weekend meals.
Oh, God.
It's like there's no way.
Normally I don't eat 5 slices of pizza, but I'll make an exception.
Yeah, it's one of those. If I starve myself the next couple of days.
Awesome.
those days you turn into Templeton the rat from Charlotte's Web. Like,
He was the best character, man.
That is the
totally. Paul Lynde. Oh, it's good
Oh
shit.
my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. I'm so glad you were able to make it, Rodney. It's been a while, and I was hoping like once you got settled in, to check in. But when Art said it, it's like, oh yeah, Rodney knows him too. And I'm like, oh, Art, are you coming? Because it's been a while. He's like, I think I could come. So I'm so happy that you were able to make it and join us. And
Yeah, and I appreciate the invite. It's a very cool hang. A lot of fun.